Good afternoon and welcome to one of my favourite little discoveries, the Churchyard of St Wilfrid here in Northenden. There are churchyards that are beautiful, churchyards that are historically important, and then there are those rare places that seem to reach out and quietly steal a little piece of your heart. St Wilfrid's is most certainly one of those. The church itself has ancient roots, although much of what we see today dates from the Victorian rebuilding in the 19th century. Its origins are thought to be Saxon. In fact, the Domesday Book records a church here at Northenden, suggesting that Christian worship has taken place on this spot for almost 1,000 years, perhaps even longer. The medieval church was substantially rebuilt during the 19th century, yet its architects showed great respect for the building's long history. Today, it's richly adorned with Gothic ornamentation. Look upwards, you'll find carved grotesques peering down from stonework, as though keeping a watchful eye over generations of worshippers. Elegant, crocketed pinnacles stretch skyward, while a pair of octagonal stair turrets add both grandeur and charm. It's a church that rewards those who pause and look closely. But as many of you know, it's rarely the church itself that captures my imagination. It's the churchyard. The newer section possesses a quiet, almost forgotten beauty. Nature's been allowed to weave its gentle magic. Tall grasses sway in the breeze, wildflowers bloom among the monuments, weathered gravestones emerge from the greenery like forgotten pages from an ancient book. There's something wonderfully romantic about it. Rather than appearing neglected, it feels reclaimed, held lovingly in the embrace of the natural world. Yet it was the older churchyard that utterly captivated my heart and soul. Encircling the church lie hundreds of ledger stones, and their surfaces remarkably well preserved despite centuries beneath English skies. Many date from the 18th century, each one a ledger of history, recording names, occupations, families and affections. Every inscription is a doorway into another life, inviting us to pause, to wonder, to remember. But then, quite unexpectedly, I found myself standing among stones that were older still. 17th century gravestones. Not one or two isolated examples, but several magnificent survivors stretching back into the early 1600s. To stand among them is to feel the centuries dissolve. Stones that have witnessed civil war, plague, industrial revolution, and the endless ebb and flow of village life. Through it all, they have remained steadfast and remarkably legible. What astonished me most was the quality of their carving. The lettering is bold, deeply incised, beautifully executed. Decorative flourishes still dance across the stone, as crisp in places as though their mason had only just laid down his chisel. It serves as a reminder that memorials were never merely markers of death. They were lasting declarations of love, remembrance, and family pride. Two stones in particular stopped me in my tracks. The first commemorates Robert Radcliffe, who died at the heartbreakingly young age of just 21. His memorial is written entirely in Latin, its words still wonderfully clear after more than 3 centuries. Translated, it tells us that Robert was handsome, angelic, a young man taken in the very bloom of his life. What an extraordinary tribute. You can't help but wonder about the family who commissioned such a memorial. What hopes they must have had for him, what grief they must have carried. Was he the pride of his household? Was he destined for great things? We shall never know. Yet across the gulf of centuries, their love remains etched into stone, allowing Robert's memory to endure. Nearby lies another magnificent Latin inscription belonging to the priest George Tracy. Again, the craftsmanship is exceptional, reminding us that Latin was once a language of scholarship, learning and the church. Today, these inscriptions lend the churchyard an air of mystery and quiet dignity, waiting patiently for curious visitors willing to unravel their stories. And then, just when I thought the churchyard could offer no more delights, I came upon one final treasure. Its 18th century sundial. Shaped rather elegantly like a classical vase, it still stands proud upon its pedestal, although time has not been entirely kind. The slender neck has been broken, while the dial plate and gnomon, the very parts that once measured the passing hours, have long since disappeared. And yet, I think it may be even more beautiful because of that. Encircled by iron railings, it possesses an almost ethereal quality. It no longer tells the time, but instead seems to contemplate it. No longer measuring the passing hours, it quietly watches the passing of centuries. Perhaps there's something wonderfully poetic about that. That's why places like St Wilfrid's resonate so deeply with me. They remind us history isn't confined to museums or hidden away in dusty archives. It lies beneath our feet. It survives in weathered inscriptions, worn carvings, forgotten wildflowers, and names that refuse to be erased by time. All we have to do is slow our pace, to look, to read, and to care. Because every stone here marks not simply a death, but a life once lived, a family once gathered, hopes once cherished, and laughter once shared. The voices are still there, if only we take the time to listen.